For this practice, you will need 1 block, 2 blankets, and 1 strap. We'll start by sitting in Virasana. Bring 1 block underneath your butt, your feet on either side of the block, and your knees to touch in front of you. Make sure that your toes are pointing in, your heels are pointing out, and then make your arms into the shape of a V. Make cups with your hands to catch the grace falling down from the universe. On your inhale, breathe in the fire of your efforts up your back. Hold when you get to the top. As you exhale, the rain of grace descends on the front side of your body and wraps back underneath you. Inhale the fire of your efforts up your back. Hold at the top. Exhale the rain of grace down your front side body and then wraps back underneath. Inhale, your efforts rise up your back. Exhale, grace descends down your front. Continue to breathe in this way. Your back and behind you represents your past. Your front body and in front of you represents your future. And the middle, you, represents your present moment. So know that this breath contains the past, it contains the future, and it has the present that it's encompassing in the middle. So you breathe in for your effort, you breathe out to receive grace, and you continue to encircle yourself with your breath. It's a shield of protection, it's what keeps you together, and it's ultimately what helps you stay in the present moment. So take 1 more breath cycle here, and at the end of your next exhale, bring your hands to your heels. Your heels are like balls, your hands are like mitts. So you have a ball and a mitt fit, and you'll notice that your hand fits perfectly over your heels, or rather your heels fit perfectly into your hands. You were designed to fit yourself. Make sure your knees are still together, that you're sitting on your perineum. You can remove the flesh out from underneath you to help you sit so that you're a plug in a socket. You've plugged yourself into the block, into the floor, into the earth, and this will help you stay centered in between your efforts and your grace. So now that your hands are on your heels, we're going to start to make hip circles in the clockwise direction. And this is just moving in your pelvic region. So your upper body barely moves, your legs barely move at all. All of the attention is in your pelvis. So you're going forward, to the right, back, and to the left. You're moving clockwise. You can imagine that your pelvis is on a clock face. And just notice, are there any numbers that it's hard to get to? Where does it feel a little sticky or a little stale? And what feels really fluid and easy to move through? What numbers do you like to go to? And which ones do you tend to avoid? Start moving it a little bit faster. Make sure you're just containing the movement to that one area of your body. And you can keep your eyes closed to help focus on the numbers on the clock face, getting all the way around from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock and back to 12 o'clock. And then switch directions, start going counterclockwise. So this time you imagine that your pelvis is on a baseball diamond. So you're going from home to first to second to third. So you go forward to the left, to behind you, and to the right. You keep your hands on your heels, the ball and a mitt fit. You keep your knees together. Your eyes can stay closed to stay focused, centered, and notice which bases it's hard to get to. Take 3 more spins around, and then come back to center. Reach your arms up overhead again in the shape of a V. And then we're going to take 100 Kapalabhati breaths. So make sure that your hands are in the shape of cups again. Kapalabhati breaths are a short exhale, the normal inhale, and everything happens through our nose. So start by taking an inhale through your nose, and we'll pump out 100 breaths. Take a deep breath in, hook your thumbs up overhead. Take 3 more sips through your nose. 3 more. Hold at the top. And then exhale, let your arms come to your sides. Release all of your air. Then we're going to find our way to tabletop, so move your block to the side. And anytime you come into tabletop, you're trying to embody the archetype of a table. So you want 4 90-degree angles. That will be the most stable structure you have here. So your wrists will come right underneath your shoulders. Your knees come right underneath your hips. And you can use your block here to measure and make sure that you have that 90 degrees. Since a block has a 90-degree angle, it is a measuring tool that you can use. Make sure that you're pressing down through all parts of your hands, that you press down through the tops of your feet to get a nice spread across your knees. And then you can move the block back to the side. Look slightly forward in your tabletop because you always want to know where you're going. So you need to look where you're going. That way you won't get blindsided by something. And then we'll start to put a wave in it with cat-cow. So on your inhale, round your spine. Bring your belly button towards your spine. Inhale to round your spine for cat. And exhale for cow. Come through, your lungs pop through. Inhale to round. And exhale to come through. And then you'll start to go a little faster. So you'll inhale and you'll exhale. And you'll inhale and you'll exhale. You'll inhale and exhale. And then start going faster. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And take it as fast as you can. So when you start with tabletop here and we put a wave in it and you're rooted down through your feet, your knees stay planted, you have a nice spread across your knees because your feet are plugged in, because you have an anchor in your feet. This will help you warm up the first floor of your body. The first floor of your body is your floor of stability. A lot of times we work in our second floor, our ability, because we're always trying to get things done. But what we really want to start with is our stability. That way we're heating our house from the ground up. So if you imagine that your boiler room is in the first floor of your house, the basement of your house, if you heat that up, then all of the heat will rise to the top of the house. If you just start by heating up the third floor of the house, you're not going to have heat on the first or second floor. So you go inhale and exhale and inhale and exhale and inhale and exhale and take it 10 more times. So take 10 more cat-cows at whatever pace you're going at. And then on your next inhale, round your spine, tuck your chin towards your chest. And as you exhale, let it go, come back to your tabletop. Bring your right knee to the center, your left knee behind it, your feet as wide as your mat. Your hands are still underneath your shoulders. Look forward. You always want to continue to remind yourself to look forward. And then we'll start to make pelvic circles again. And this time we're on our knees. So similar to what we were doing on our block before, this time we're just in tabletop, but with the boundary of our knees in the center. So you'll start to imagine that clock face again. You're rotating your pelvis in the clockwise position. So you're going from 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. And make sure that you're going all the way around the clock face. So you don't want to skip any part. You don't want to just have the top half of the clock or the bottom half, just the right side, just the left side. And you'll notice since you have this boundary of your knees together, it's a really helpful tool to be able to figure out which numbers it's hard to get to. So keep looking forward. Make sure that you're pressing your entire hand into the mat. If you tend to drop back into the heels of your hands, you tend to be in the past a lot. So if that's happening, put more of the pressure into your knuckles so that all of your knuckles are planted on your mat. And if you notice that you're on your fingertips a lot and you're barely in your heels at all, you tend to be more into the future lap. So then you can bring a little bit more weight to the palm of your hand, the heel of your hand. So you want an equal distribution throughout your hand. So keep going, you keep looking forward, keep pressing the tops of your feet into the mat. Those are still your anchors, your first floor anchors that'll help you stay stable so that you can build yourself from the ground up. And then you go ahead and stop moving your hips. And we're going to stand up on it. So you'll walk your hands back towards your knees, and you'll stand up on your knees, continuing to have your crossed legs. So you'll notice that your left hip might be dropping back to the left. You want to think about it coming forward and to the right. So think about your left hip coming to 2 o'clock. If there was a clock face in front of you, you would want it pointing slightly to the right, and this will help you start to get it around. And then you can hook your arms overhead so you'll grab onto opposite elbows, creating a frame for yourself. A frame has 4 vertices, 4 sides. It helps us get through ourselves, helps our lungs pop through. And you want your frame to be just above your head. So not too far in front, not too far back, just right over your head. And then release your hands back to your mat. Walk your hands forward and press up into a down dog with your crossed legs still. So you want your feet to be hip distance apart, which you can imagine is about 2 fists worth in between the middle of your feet. You can shift forward into a plank with crossed legs for a second to make sure that you have a nice length in your down dog. So the length of your plank is the length of your dog, and then press back up to your dog. You bend your knees, you lift your heels, stick your butt up. Your gaze is slightly forward so your ears are by your biceps. And once again, make sure if you're dropping back into the heels of your hands, press forward into your knuckles or vice versa. And we'll take a couple breaths here. So you can continue to travel the backs of your legs. Continue to lift your heels, bend your knees, lift your butt. And from the middle of your knee up to your hips, think about that going up towards the sky. And from the middle of your knee down to your heels, think about that going down towards the earth. And that's how you'll travel your legs, but you'll never fully straighten them. And then we're going to start going back and forth between plank and down dog. So on your inhale, shift forward to plank. You'll still have your crossed legs. And as you exhale, press it back to down dog with crossed legs. Inhale to your plank. Exhale back to down dog. Inhale for plank. Exhale for down dog. Inhale for plank, exhale for down dog. And then start to speed it up. So you're really just moving from your hip joint and your shoulder joint here. So you can start to take it faster and faster, and there should be very little effort in your muscles because you're really just moving in joint space. And we'll take it 10 more times. So go forward and backwards 10 more times. And if you want this to go faster because you're not liking it, then move your body faster. And if you're just loving it, you can go slower and really enjoy the forward and backwards. If there's one that you tend to do more, if you really tend to go fast a lot in your life, then go a little slower. And if you tend to go slower, go faster. Because really what we're trying to do here is awaken that part of us that is normally asleep, that we don't really like to go to, or that we don't tend to go to. And that will help us grow. After your 10th time, we're going to meet back in your down dog. And then you'll walk your hands back to your feet. So your legs will still be crossed, and you'll fully plant your feet on the ground. So your heels will not be lifted anymore, and your knees will still stay slightly bent. Your right knee is still in front. Your left knee is tucked into your right. And try to fully relax your upper body. Keep your knees bent so that you find belly to thigh contact. You have a forward fold here with crossed legs. You'll keep your hands on your mat. And we'll take a couple breaths here. Release your head and your neck fully. This will help you lift your butt higher. And you can still continue to travel your legs here. And since your legs are crossed, we'll cross-reference, but it'll be an interesting cross-reference because it'll actually be on the same leg. So cross-reference your right foot to your right hip. Pull them apart. And then cross-reference your left foot to your left hip and pull them apart. And then we're going to walk around ourselves so that we find the opposite cross leg. So you're going to start by walking your hands to the left, all the way until your left leg is now the one that's in front of your right. Remember to keep bending your knees, drop your head, release your neck. And we're going to take all of that in the opposite direction. So we'll be here for a couple breaths in your forward fold with your left leg in front this time. Once again, we'll cross-reference from your left foot to your left hip, pull them apart, and your right foot to your right hip and pull them apart. Keep your head, your neck relaxed. Travel your legs. And then walk your hands back out to your down dog with crossed legs. We'll spend a few breaths here. So you'll bend your knees, you'll lift your heels, your ears in line with your biceps, gaze slightly forward. Keep lifting your butt, lifting your heels, traveling your legs. Middle of your knee down to your heel goes down towards the mat. Middle of your knee up towards your hips goes up towards the sky. Press into the knuckle of your hands if you're tending to fall back into the heel of your hands. And then on your inhale, come forward to plank. Exhale, come back to your dog. Inhale, forward to plank. Exhale, back to your dog. Inhale, forward to plank. Exhale, back to your dog. And start to move faster and faster, knowing that you're moving through joint space so you can go as fast as you want to. Continue to look forward. You never want to look back, even when you go back into your down dog, because you don't want to look back into your past. That's not going to get you anywhere. You want to look forward into your future. And then go 5 more times. And then we'll meet back in your down dog with your left knee crossed in front of your right. Then lower your knees down to the mat. Make sure your feet are mat distance apart. And we're going to take this the opposite direction. Option this time to flip your hands 180 degrees. So your wrists are still directly underneath your shoulders, but this time you just flip your wrist to get an extra wrist opening. This will help open your collarbone and help your lungs pop through. If you're doing that, make sure that you're not locking your elbows. So bring a little tiny bend to them and then pull them out to their own side. So the right elbow to the right, left elbow to the left. And then we'll start to take our hips in the counterclockwise direction. So forward to the left, back into the right. And once again, this is very little movement anywhere else besides your hips and your pelvis. So your feet stay plugged in. They don't lift up off the mat. Your hands stay plugged in. And you'll notice that since we've created this boundary with our knees, what we've done is really create a third thing by putting your right leg and your left leg together. You've created what we call a third foot. So when you've put one thing and another thing together, you've created an entirely new thing. So that's like when you put yellow and red together, you get orange. Or when you put a female and a male together, they can create a baby. And this happens all throughout nature. It's a pattern in nature that 1 + 1 doesn't always just equal 2. It creates an entirely new third thing. And then you go ahead and stop making your hip circles, and we're going to stand up on it. So you'll walk your hands back towards your knees, stand up on your knees, and this time your hips might be facing a little more towards 2 o'clock naturally, and that's totally okay. 2 o'clock is the hour of joy. It's the ping of joy. So when things are slightly turned that way, that's really where when you're getting where you want to go. So it's you moving through time and space in such a way that's moving you into the future that you've envisioned for yourself. So hook onto opposite elbows overhead. Try and have the opposite arm in front than you did before. You've created a frame once again, and your head is popping through your frame. It's directly over your head. Rotate your armpits towards your heart. Keep pressing your pelvis forward. Stay here for one more inhale breath. And as you exhale, release your hands back to the mat. This time we're going to uncross our legs, come back to your tabletop, and then we'll press up to down dog. So first walk your hands forward, and we're going to press up into a plank. That'll help us measure out our down dog. And you can even measure out shoulder distance apart by bringing your middle fingers together while your palms are flat on the mat, and then pivot on the heel of your hand so that your fingers are facing forward. That'll be your shoulder distance. And then press up to your plank. So you have 90-degree angles from your wrist to your shoulders and 90-degree angles from your toes or the balls of your feet to your heels. And then you'll press your hips up and back, bend your knees, lift your heels, downward facing dog. And notice how different this down dog feels than when you had your legs crossed and you had that extra boundary. What things are easier, what seems a little more difficult. Are you able to keep your knees out to their own side? So is your right knee out to its own side, your left knee out to its own side? Is your gaze still slightly forward? In a down dog here, you've created a 60-degree triangle of strength, structure, and stability. And the reason that we bend our knees is so that we get a correct tilt in our pelvis. So on your next inhale, look forward. And as you exhale, step your right foot forward to a 90-degree angle. So your right knee will be directly above your right ankle. And you'll look forward, keep looking forward. Your hands are on either side of your right foot. Your left knee is still lifted. And you'll start to find a back bend here by bringing your pubis forward, your navel forward, your sternum forward and up. Keep your vision forward. You always want to look where you're going. Make sure that you have that 90-degree angle. You can always measure with a block. Once you have that, lower your back knee and untuck your back toes. Your vision is still forward. Make sure that you have a full spread across your back foot. That'll help protect your knee. And then reach onto opposite elbows underneath your right leg. Keep finding your back bend. And in a moment, we're going to unfold from our hips. So just make sure that your right leg stays where it is. And you can always think of your right knee as continually going forward like a projection. So on your inhale, release your arms, reach them up overhead. Unfold from your hips. And if you tend to go really deep here because you're really flexible, you can always place a block underneath your left leg to help keep it so that there's not a big angle there. You can grab onto opposite elbows overhead, once again creating that frame for your face. And your gaze is forward. Think about your heart slightly turning towards 2 o'clock. Same with your right knee. Keep rooting down through the top of your left foot. And then interlace your fingers to the webbing, place them behind your head, and find a back bend. Pubis, navel, sternum, come forward, up, and around. So this isn't starting from your upper back, it's really starting from your pubis. And actually really starting from the top of your back foot. On your inhale, reach your arms back overhead. As you exhale, come to half splits with a bent knee. So you come onto your right heel and your right knee will fit into your right armpit. So it's okay if your knee is super bent. It's more important that you have contact of your belly on your thigh. Your gaze continues to look forward. You don't want to look down. Whenever you look down, that's really not going to help you go anywhere. So if you're on a street and you're just walking and your head is down, you're probably going to run into people, or you're never going to get where you want to go because you're not going to be able to see any street signs. You might even run into traffic because you'd be walking across a street and a car might be there. On your next inhale, come back to your low crescent, reach your arms up, bend into your front knee. As you exhale, step back to a plank. Plant your hand, step your right foot back. Stay for a breath in. As you exhale, lower yourself all the way down to the mat. Untuck your toes, Bring your arms by your sides underneath your shoulders. On an inhale, find cobra pose. Lift your upper body off of the mat. As you exhale, press back to down dog. Lower yourself down, press up to a plank, and shift your hips high. On your inhale, look forward. As you exhale, step your left foot in between your hands. Make sure that you've stepped to a 90-degree angle. This is the most stable angle for your leg to be in. And you can measure with a block again. You can measure with your arm. Keep your gaze forward. Your right toes are still tucked. Bring your pubis, your navel, your sternum forward and up for your back bend. And then lower your back knee down, untuck your toes. If you took a block underneath your left thigh, go ahead and place one under your right if you tend to go too deep there as well. Hook onto opposite elbows underneath your left leg. Once again, find your back bend, gaze forward. On your next inhale, unfold into your low crescent, hinging from your hip joint, coming forward and up, and then back. Grab onto opposite elbows overhead. Try to bring the opposite arm in front this time. Your gaze is forward, heart slightly to 2 o'clock. Same with your left knee. It's a trajectory, always moving forward. And then interlace your fingers to the webbing behind your head. Find a back bend, pubis, navel, sternum. Come forward, up, and around. Imagine a big beach ball was behind you. On your inhale, reach your arms up overhead. As you exhale, come to your half splits with a bent left knee. Find belly to thigh contact, knee into your armpit. Continue to gaze forward. Feel for the curve in your low back. So even in a forward fold, we always try to find a back bend. On your inhale, come back to your low crescent, bend your front knee, lift your arms. As you exhale, step back to a plank, plant your hands, left foot back towards your right. Stay for a breath in. As you exhale, lower all the way down to your mat. Your inhale is cobra pose. Untuck your toes, press into the tops of your feet as you lift yourself up. As you exhale, press back to a down dog, lower down, press up to plank, and your hips go high. Take a couple rounds of breath here. Bend your knees, lift your butt, lift your heels, gaze slightly forward. Feel for the arc in your low back. On your inhale, lift your heels. Exhale, bend your knees, look forward, step or hop to the top of your mat. Find a halfway lift as you breathe in. Keep your knees bent. Fold forward as you breathe out. Your feet are hip distance apart. Inhale to roll yourself up all the way to the top. Your arms reach up overhead. Exhale, your hands come to your heart. Inhale, tall mountain, arms reach up. Exhale, bend your knees as you forward fold. Halfway lift with bent knees as you breathe in. Exhale, high plank, plant your hands, step or hop back. Take a breath in. Exhale, lower half or all the way down. Inhale, up dog or cobra pose. Exhale, downward facing dog, send your hips high. Make sure your feet are hip distance apart. Make sure your knees are bent, your heels are lifted. Take an inhale, look forward. Exhale, step your right foot forward to a 90-degree angle. Low crescent, lower your back knee, untuck your toes, arms sweep up. Exhale, half splits with a bent knee. Keep looking forward. Inhale, reach your arms back up, low crescent. Exhale, high plank, plant your hands, step back. Stay for your breath in. Lower half or all the way as you breathe out. Inhale, up dog or cobra pose. Exhale, downward facing dog. Look forward as you breathe in. Step your left foot forward to a 90-degree angle as you breathe out. Inhale, low crescent, drop your back knee, untuck your toes, arms sweep up. Exhale, half splits with the left bent knee. Inhale back to your low crescent. Exhale, plant your hands, step back to high plank. Stay for your inhale breath. Lower half or all the way as you breathe out. Inhale, up dog or cobra pose. Downward facing dog as you breathe out. Couple rounds of breath here. Once again, feet are hip distance apart, knees are bent, heels are lifted. Lift your butt, gaze is slightly forward. Feel for the curve in your low back. And now I'll move into one more warrior pose before cooling off. So look forward, step your right foot forward to a 90-degree angle. Bring your right hand to the inside of your right foot. Make sure that the heel of your hand lines up with the heel of your foot. Your left leg is still lifted. Your back heel is directly over your back toes. Bring your left hand to your sacrum to make sure that your hips are at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. So your right hip is directly pointing out to the right and your left hip directly out to the left. Adjust as needed. Keep looking forward. Bring your pubis forward, your navel forward, your sternum forward. Start to find a back bend as you reach your left arm up towards the sky. Your hips stay at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock, so you want to keep your right butt out to its own side, your left butt out to its own side. Your chest will turn 90 degrees. Your gaze will turn 180 degrees. And the most important thing here is that you're going to use the linear nature of this form to then find a spherical nature, which will happen with a back bend and which also happens with your breath. So we're moving not only through space, but also in time. Your left arm can reach up over your head by rotating your armpit towards your heart, and it'll be right above your ear. And you have a lot of contact between your legs and your torso. So your right arm has a slight bend in it. Your right shoulder is right by your right knee, and you use your right knee as a boundary. Stay here for one more inhale breath. Exhale, release your left hand back to the mat. Bring your right hand to its own side. Inhale back to a plank. And exhale to down dog. Send your hips high. Couple rounds of breath. Gaze forward. Take a breath in. On your breath out, step your left foot forward to a 90-degree angle. Bring your left hand inside of your left foot, heel of your hand, heel of your foot, line up, slight bend in your left elbow. This time your left knee and your left shoulder make contact, just like on the other side, but instead of just being a boundary, your left knee is actually going to help push your left shoulder this time, and it'll help you in your back bend. So bring your right hand to your sacrum. Your hips are at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. Left hip's at 9 o'clock, right hip's at 3 o'clock. Make sure your right hip stays out to its own side. And then start to bring your pubis, navel, sternum forward, starting to back bend as you reach your right arm up. Your torso is turned 90, your gaze 180. And your pubis coming forward is really what starts your back bend. So feel your left knee pushing against your left shoulder. Your left knee continues to come forward like a trajectory as it slightly goes to the right. Your right arm can come towards your right ear by rotating your armpit towards your heart. Reach your right arm back up on your breath in. As you exhale, release your right hand, left hand to the outside of your left foot. Step back to your plank on your inhale breath. Exhale, down dog, send your hips high. Inhale, high plank, shift forward. Exhale, lower half or all the way. Up dog or cobra as you breathe in. Downward facing dog as you breathe out. On your inhale, lift your heels. Exhale, bend your knees, look forward, step or hop to the top of your mat. Find a halfway lift with bent knees as you breathe in. Fold forward as you breathe out. Inhale is Tadasana. Reach your arms up, lift your torso. Hands come to your heart as you exhale. Inhale, reach your arms up, hook your thumbs at the top over your head, rotate your armpits towards your heart. Make sure your feet are hip distance apart. You can do that by rotating your right foot on the heel of your foot. Make sure that your toes touch your left heel. If not, adjust your feet so that they do. And then pivot back on your heel again. This is another indication that we were created to fit ourselves. With your thumbs hooked overhead, feel the length of your body, of your spine, your heels, your feet root down into your mat, your fingertips reach up towards the sky. Try and adjust your hands so that your fingers are all pointing straight up with a little bit of space in between them. And then gaze up and make sure that they are. Adjust as needed once you look up. And if your hands are in a little bit different position than you thought, it's just a reminder that we can't always trust our feelings. So it's important to actually look at concrete evidence. And that will help us in our goals and our visions. And look straight forward again. Stay here for one more inhale breath. And exhale, forward fold with bent knees. Find a halfway lift as you breathe in. Exhale, step back to your plank. Inhale. Exhale, or half or all the way down. Up dog or cobra as you breathe in. Downward facing dog as you breathe out. Hips high, knees bent, heels lifted. Feet are hip distance apart, hands are shoulder distance apart. You can always check with any of the measuring tools. And then we're going to set up for our pigeon. So come down to your knees for a second. Place 2 blankets, folded a couple of times, towards the middle of your mat, or a little bit higher than the middle of your mat. One stacked on top of the other. Once you've done that, come back to your down dog. Take a breath in. As you exhale, come forward into pigeon. So your right knee will come out to its own side, right behind your right wrist. And your right foot will be on the left side of your mat. Your left leg will come behind you, and make sure that 2 blankets is enough. So if you're not able to plug yourself in here with your hips at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock, get another blanket or a pillow or a towel or anything else that you have around. What's most important in this pose is that you are stable. So we really want to start from the ground up. And that's really what's most important in all of our poses. If we're not stable, it doesn't really matter what's going on up top. If you have a house that's on stilts and the stilts are about to fall over, it really doesn't matter how beautiful your remodeled kitchen is. So once you get your hips at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock, and your left knee straight back behind you, you'll walk your hands forward. You can bring the block underneath your forehead and then walk your hands out so that they're in the shape of a V again. Your right hand is towards 2 o'clock, your left hand is towards 10 o'clock. If you have more blocks available, you can place one underneath each of your armpits and one underneath your forehead. So take your time here to drop in. It can be nice to adopt one of our breath patterns, breath meditations. So we'll start by inhaling for spring rising of the front side of our body. Once you get to the top, you hold your breath for summer as it ripens overhead. Exhale for fall, descending down your back. And then hold your breath empty for the pause of winter underneath you. Inhale, spring rises up the front. Summer blossoms as you hold overhead. Exhale, fall down your back. And the silence of winter underneath you. Continue to breathe the breath of the seasons as you cross-reference. So cross-reference your right knee to your right foot and pull them apart. Your right hip to your right foot, pull them apart. Your left foot to your right knee, pull them apart. Your right shoulder to your left hip, pull them apart. Left shoulder to right hip, pull them apart, and where X marks the spot on your back, find a back bend. As you continue to breathe the breath of the seasons, notice if there's a season that sits well with you, which ones you really like, which you really feed into, and which ones you try to avoid. At the end of your next exhale, you'll walk yourself back towards your knees and sit up on your pigeon. A block can come between your pubis and your right leg for a little extra support. Option here to bend into your back knee. Reach around with your left hand and your right hand. Try to find a 90-degree angle from your left foot to your left knee as you find a back bend here. And then gently release your foot. Plant your hands on your mat. Step your right foot back to down dog and take a couple of breaths walking your dog. Cross-reference right foot to left hand, left foot to right hand. And then look forward. Take an inhale breath. Step your left foot forward to your pigeon on the second side, left knee to left wrist. Make sure your left knee goes all the way out to its own side. And your blankets are there once again to help you plug yourself in. So your right leg is long behind you. Each hip is out to its own side, so your hips are at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. Make sure you're plugged in. And then start to walk yourself forward. Once again, using any blocks that you have, or at least placing a block under your forehead and your arms out in the shape of a V. Options here to take the breath of the seasons again. Spring rises up the front. Hold for summer to blossom at the top. Fall down your back. Hold for winter underneath. Or to take the grace and effort breath. Inhale for your efforts rising up your back, and exhale for grace descending down your front. We'll cross-reference your left knee to your left foot, your left hip to your left foot, your right hip to your left shoulder, your left hip to your right shoulder, and your right foot to your left knee. Once you pull yourself apart, you'll be able to find more and more space. Try to find the curve in your low back. In every forward fold, there is a back bend. And then walk your hands back towards your left leg. Option to bring your block between your pubis and your left leg. Make sure you're still plugged in on your perineum, antenna straight up towards the sky. Option here to bend into your back knee, reach around for your ankle. Keep a 90-degree bend from your right knee to your right ankle as you find a back bend. And then bring your hands back down to your mat as you slowly release your foot. Press back to a down dog. Walk your dog. Couple rounds of breath here. And then bring your knees back down to your mat. Bring your feet off to one side, and we're going to sit back on our blankets. So 1 or 2 blankets will come underneath your butt, and the other one will go off to the side if you're not using it. We're going to set up for a forward fold. So also make sure you have your block handy and you have your strap handy as well. Couple options here for your forward fold. The most important thing is that you keep a bend in your knees and that you're sitting on your perineum. But the options here are to keep your legs together or to keep your legs hip distance apart. So make sure you're sitting on your perineum by removing the flesh out from underneath you. Feel the slight tilt in your pelvis to find the curve in your low back. For legs apart, bring the block in between your legs. That will be where your head rests. Wrap your strap around you so that it helps you fold from your hip crease. This can also be done without a strap. And then you'll want to bend your knees enough so that when you have belly to thigh contact, you can find your knees into your armpits. We're going to hold onto our feet here. So your head will come to your block. This will help release tension in your nervous system. It'll help you relax into the posture. And throughout the entire pose, you'll want to be traveling your legs from the middle of your knee to your hips or going back behind you. From the middle of your knee to your heel is going forward in front of you. So you're pulling yourself apart in 2 directions. And a great way to continue to move in this pose is to move your breath. So we'll inhale for a count of 5, hold for a count of 5, exhale for a count of 10, and then hold for a count of 5. So that's inhaling for 5, holding for 5, exhaling for 10, and then holding for 5. It can also be really helpful to pick a number for how many breaths you're going to hold in this pose. So some really big number. Set a goal for yourself. This will give your nervous system a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it'll help you stay present in the posture. You can also take the grace and effort breath or the breath of the seasons again if that was something that was soothing and helpful. And this is where we'll leave you today. So stay here as long as you need. When you take a forward fold, it's like recharging your batteries. It's recharging your kidneys. It's giving you energy for the rest of your day, helping you stay focused and really compiling everything that you've been working towards throughout the last 50 or so minutes. So take as much time as you need here. Stay for at least 20 more breaths. And make sure to take time and energy to give gratitude to yourself for showing yourself love in this way. Namaste.